I've been a fan of this man for a good while. He's putting out good music, and he just put out his third album, Eagle Feather, which is out now that you have to check out. Let's welcome back, because it's been a few years since Ian's been on the show, but let's welcome
Yeah.
back the country artist songwriter Ian Munsick.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jonathan. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, this is Bar Conversations. And, my first question is always, what are you drinking tonight, or what's your go to drink these days?
Man, always a Coors, man. I like to I like to casually have like one or two Coors on special occasions. And then, like there's other special occasions that are, like a martini. I've really hit a martini era of my life. And then an occasional oldie,
What is
old
that?
fashioned.
Okay,
Yeah.
old fashioned. Okay, I like that.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
like that.
But yeah, man, I kind of stick with those three things. Those are kind of my go-tos.
I like that. I like that. So
Yeah.
I always try to pair something with a guest. Sometimes it works out really well. Hopefully tonight I did well because I know where you're from. So
Yeah.
I had to find out of my stash a little Wyoming whiskey, double
Oh,
cask
very nice,
finish.
man. I have a few of those upstairs, man, and I almost brought it on here. So I'm glad that you have it.
Well, I was gonna say. I mean, I had to because that's where you're from.
Yeah, man.
For those that don't know, and it's a good pour. It's a good pour. So
Yeah.
gotta bring
Yep.
those out.
Oh, yeah, dude. Very
Now,
nice.
I mentioned Wyoming, and when because I was curious, I was like, all right, this is Kirby, Wyoming. How far away is that from where you grew up? Still very far away, very far away. Wyoming's a very big state, as I'm learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty large place. But if you're from Wyoming, then you feel like you know that person because we're also the least populated state. So it's like I always freak out every time I meet somebody from Wyoming, and like we immediately have a bond that like we only really know about. And I feel like out of all of the states, including Texas, Wyoming probably has the most state pride because we're the least populated state. So we have to, you know what I mean? Like we have to make up for that with our state pride. So yeah, man.
Well,
But the Kirby's pretty far away from where I'm from.
I was gonna say, the only place I've been to in Wyoming is Jackson, and
Oh yeah,
it's a
beautiful.
beautiful state,
Oh yeah,
and
so pretty.
you grew up there on a ranch, living the ranch life. Unlike maybe other country artists that you're like, did they really live that life? No, you lived that life. How
Yeah,
was that?
man, it was awesome, dude. I grew up. My dad, he was the manager for this beautiful ranch that's right in the Bighorn, the canyon, or the Little Goose, the canyon, then the Bighorns, and man, just a beautiful ranch that me and my brothers grew up on, and it was truly like the kind of life where my mom would just allow us to go out and just ring the bell for dinner, and then we just had to be home, So it was just the best lifestyle, man. Just beautiful outdoors, tons of wildlife, mountains, canyons, rivers, just the kind of lifestyle that I feel like is harder and harder to come by this day and age, just with how crazy um, our world has gotten. So I definitely feel very blessed to have grown up on a ranch.
Now, did you always love having to be? I'm assuming you got put to work on a ranch. So, did you love
For
that
sure.
part of it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So then, my dad purchased his own place. Like a much smaller ranch, and that's really where my brothers and I got put to work because he didn't have any helpers. He owned it, so it's like we're his helpers, and I have two older brothers, so it's like he had a lot of help from us three. But yeah, man, it's like I think about working on the ranch, and when I'm working on music, I'm like, damn, I would love to have one day just out on the ranch working, and then I'm out on the ranch working. I'm like, damn, I really miss making music. So, the grass
It
is
brings you
always
down,
greener.
right?
Yeah, yeah, the grass is always greener. Yeah.
Now, is it true? I think I saw on your social media that you're moving back to Wyoming. Is that correct? You got a place out there now?
Yeah, my wife and I, we recently purchased a place of our own out near where I grew up. Yeah, man, just loving that. We bought that place. It's been about half a year now, so there's still a lot of progress that we need. But man, we love to just escape out there just whenever we can, which just isn't near often enough because I'm on the road so often that Wyoming is pretty inconvenient to travel in and out of on a regular basis. But man, we love it out there, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of wean our time more to Wyoming as the years progress.
I was gonna say. I mean, are you hoping to have a little farm out there, or your little ranch of your own at some point?
Yeah, yeah, man. We actually have a ranch right now there. We have the land, we have the property, we have the house. But to live like to live on a real ranch, you have to live there, right? Like you have to live there because it's a lifestyle being on a ranch, man. It's not just a job. It's more than a job. It is a lifestyle. So you really have to put in the time to have animals and to prioritize your animals and the land that you're on, to be a good rancher, or even to be a bad rancher, you have to do that. So
So that's
down the
down the
road.
road. That sounds
Yes,
okay.
yes, down the road.
But you talk about being able to grow up there. I know you're in Nashville now, and but how much is your ideal downtime when you do finally get that? Just being outdoors, no matter where you are, kind of enjoying what Mother Nature has to offer.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I definitely still I do my ideal downtime is being with my son, man. He's 5 years old, and he's at the age now where it's a blast just doing anything with him. So pretty much whatever he wants to do, we do. But I'm lucky because usually our viewpoints line up pretty accurately, so we're kind of on the same wave most of the time.
So are you taking him fishing? All those good
Yeah,
things.
yeah, man. Playing t-ball right now, that's always a blast. He loves to swim in any kind of body of water. He loves to just hang out outdoors, just play outside, which is awesome. But uh, me growing up on a ranch makes me want him to grow up on a ranch too, because it's pretty. Um, yeah, that's just the kind of childhood that is the ideal childhood for anybody, I feel like. So he was another big reason why we bought the place in Wyoming, so that he could spend more time enjoying that lifestyle. You know,
Well, and I was gonna say, I think there's another one that's gonna be joining the crew
that's
soon.
right.
So
Yeah, that's
you
right.
got a little girl on the way.
We do.
How excited are you to add girl dad to the title?
Very excited, man. That's I feel like God really blessed us with with the privilege of experiencing the two coins of parenthood, because from what I hear and from what I can imagine, being a girl dad is much different than being a boy dad. And you have kids too, right?
I got a girl
Yep.
that's 6, and we got back from dance practice today. Gymnastics was the other day.
Wow.
Dance again on Friday. We mix in soccer and swimming on occasion though.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. Wow. Yeah. See, those are like two things. that, yeah, I've just never even experienced those things in my life, so there's going to be a whole new world, which I'm really, really pumped about because, man, it's just new experiences and that's really what we're on Earth to do is experience Earth and this life. So that's pretty cool, man. I feel very blessed, and my wife is she's doing great now too, and man, we're just very, very happy about having a little girl here in a couple months.
Well, and you mentioned your son. You know, he's been in some music videos. He's done some other things with you. You've been able to incorporate him into, what you do. Is he into music like you are? Is he playing instruments and things like that?
Yeah, man. Yeah. He loves to play the piano. We need to get him like proper training though, because I can do like all the ear stuff and the ear training. I love to do that stuff. But I feel like any child always learns more when there's an outside
What,
teacher.
they
Because
don't
when
listen
it's your
to us?
dad,
They
it's
don't
like
listen to us? No.
they do for like the first few minutes, right? And then they're like they slowly kind of start to do this. Whereas I feel like if you have a real teacher, they can kind of to continue that streamline. um, but yeah, man, he's very musical. I can tell, which is cool.
Well, no, I was gonna say. I mean, you talk about your family. You know, you grew up on the ranch, but your family was is still into music. You know,
Hmm.
you and your brothers, and I think your dad were part of a group. So, what was it like growing
Yeah,
up in such a musical family?
man, it was awesome. It was really cool to learn how to play music and how to perform music on stage and how to write music from the people that I look up to the most, being the youngest. They've always been my role models. So it was also really cool to have a very what's the right word? I guess vulnerable relation with music. Just because through music you speak your heart, whereas growing up on a ranch with a bunch of boys, it's like that doesn't happen very often. It's usually the opposite of that. Like it's the tough love thing, you know. So to have that other half of it through music was really cool.
Well, and I was gonna say, I mean, being out there and growing up like you did, what impact did that have on you? Because like you said, you kind of got to see both sides. Growing up in Wyoming in the West, what impact
Yeah.
did that have on you?
Oh man, that's the whole reason why I make music is to put the Western music back into country music. And especially, there's when I was growing up, I never heard music about where I was from on the radio. It was always about places far, far away. So I promised myself that I would bring the West to the rest so that the rest don't have to come to the West and ruin the West. Because that's why we love the West, is because there's nobody there, right? That's why everyone goes there, just because it's beautiful and it's untouched by man and it's still rugged and raw. Um, so yeah, man, that's what inspires me to make music is Wyoming and that lifestyle and a culture that very rarely gets the spotlight. Even though in terms of country, that's as country as it gets. That the culture out in Wyoming, Montana, the Rocky Mountains, and the West in general. I mean, that when you think of the word country, the first thing that my mind thinks of is the land, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not even music. It's like the earth. So just to be inspired by that is just kind of endless creativity to draw from, along with my wife and my son and my faith. It's just all kind of right there. So
Well, I mean, you do a great job combining all that, and I think that's why I gravitate towards your music. And like you said, you had some role models growing up, and your older brothers, your dad, and things like that. But what music did you grow up, listening to, and kind of made an impact, and kind of who you might have been a role model outside of them?
yeah, man. My dad being a really good musical brain. I mean, he's a freak, man. He's very, very, very talented. So, man, he would turn us on to the Brubeck, the quartet, to Brahms, like classical music, all the way to Merle Haggard. Love Merle Haggard. Fleetwood Mac. I love the Beatles through him. The James Taylor. Those were. Then there's like the actual Western music, like Ian Tyson and Chris Ledoux and Tom Russell and Don Edwards. There's a whole part of country music that I would say 95% of country music fans have no idea about.
Mm-hmm.
So they obviously inspired me too. But I would say that the music that influenced me and inspires me the most is the Beatles, man. I can always just go back and listen to their records and just be like, damn, they were just constantly recreating themselves and striving to progress music and their own artistry. And that's always been a big thing for me, is just to be a progressive artist.
Well, and like I said, I mean, you're doing that, kind of bringing back that sound to more folks, and obviously you came, like I said, you came from the musical family. That's kind of been in your blood. But when did you decide to kind of go, you know what, that's what I want to do, and that's where I see my life, gonna be?
Yeah, man, just through playing with my two older brothers and my dad, like it was never being the youngest again, that I was on stage playing when I was about probably 10 years old, just playing with them, so it was never like a thing where I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. We just kind of always just had it around. And I knew that when I was creating music, that time just just it just flew by, and I wasn't like, that's when you're in the zone, man. And I feel like whenever you're in that headspace, that's God telling you like, hey, this is your gift, like this is what you need to spend your time doing. So I feel very blessed um that I found that at a young age.
And is that kind of what ended up pushing you to Nashville, and kind of going to school there, and taking the
Yeah,
chance?
yeah, man. I just wanted to learn. I've always loved to learn, and I feel like I'm a good student. Because I don't have to talk, I can just listen and just observe, and like I don't have to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So just being able to learn and being coachable. There's so much talent here. The best players in the world are here. There's the best engineers in the world are here. There's incredible writers here. And so I just wanted to be in a place where music was the common language. And out in Wyoming, music was the common language in my household. But, when my brothers moved away to college and, I'm still in school, I was the only one, or like, there's probably a handful of other kids, but, you know, uh, this town, music is the common language. So that made the move from Wyoming a lot easier because even if I didn't have anything in common, we could just grab some instruments and it's like now we have the thing in common. So yeah, man, that's kind of what led to me moving here.
Well, and it worked out well. You met your wife, in
Oh yeah,
Nashville, and some great things have
yeah,
happened. And you know, one of the other things that I think people may have an idea, may not know. You have a speech impediment, but
yeah,
it never shows up when you hit on the stage. It's like it's like that's where you're meant to be.
yeah,
But
totally.
but but apparently around your parents though it comes back. Is that
Oh
right?
man, yeah, man, especially around them. I don't know. It's probably just that like that thing of you you always want your parents to be proud of you and think that you're doing well and not worry about you, so that always creates just a little bit extra stress when you're around your parents. And I feel like that's probably it. Everybody feels a little bit more stressed when they're with their parents, I feel like. um,
Absolutely.
no matter how cool they are, and then it, then it, then I have a great, I love my parents. We have a great the close the close tie. But yeah, man, that was just always kind of a thing. And it's one of those deals where my fluency will come and go. Like it's never all the way fluent, but when I'm on stage, I'm always all the way fluent. And it's just a crazy thing that I've always been very comfortable on stage. And, that's one of those things where I look back and say, that's God being like, hey, you are able to communicate fluently when you're on stage and when you're doing the thing that you love. So man, I feel it's just it's taught me how to use my ears more than my mouth, and how to still connect with people, and not judge not judge people as harshly. Even though I still do, man. Like I'm not perfect by any means, but I feel like I have more empathy because of it.
I was gonna say you have a different outlook on life now. Now, does your wife say you listen well? Do you use those ears more?
Yeah, I don't think that any of them would say that any of us
No, I
listen
don't.
well. No
I
matter
do
how
all that.
well you listen, even if you listen better than she does, she'll never admit
No, no, no. I'm not even going there. Not even touching that. We're moving on now. Yeah. In addition to music, though, you're a creator. You like to kind of do different things, and you dabbled into making a movie, a documentary,
yeah,
called Voices of the West. Why was that something you kind of wanted to put some creative energy into?
yeah, man. When I was working on my last album, White Buffalo, it occurred to my wife and I towards the end of the project, that people still thought that the Cowboys and n- Native Americans are still enemies. And it's like they just have no idea what that culture actually is. And it's not, like I don't blame anybody. It's just, again, I go back to that culture out there is hidden from the rest of the world. And that's a beautiful thing. But I just knew that there was, I had these friends that just had incredible the stories that their culture very rarely has that positive light on it. So to be able to tell the stories of my friends who uh, who have achieved their dreams and are great role models and stories that everybody should hear. My wife and I were like, man, this is a great opportunity to not only put on for our friends, but to give the country music world a glimpse of that very special culture that only the people who grew up around there are kind of let into. And I feel very blessed and honored to be a part of that now. And yeah, man, it was just important for us to help explain my goal as an artist to bring the West to the rest, to have that visual aspect of it. And that's exactly it, man. There's nothing more Western than cowboys that are Native American. I mean, that's as Western as it gets.
They're the originals.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, they are the
you know,
original.
and for you, you like I said earlier, you just released your latest album, Eagle Feather. Did that inspiration come from Red Rocks, where you were gifted an eagle feather as part of a pretty cool moment?
Yeah, man. Yeah. When I got adopted into the Crow tribe during Red Rocks, they presented me with a eagle feather, and you know that that act of adoption is, man, that's pretty powerful. And so that was just a an honor that I'll have with me for the rest of my life, that I thought would be cool to highlight on this album. And yeah, man, yeah. And just to be honest, it was also just a great way how to get the animal trilogy in my albums with the coyote cry, and then white buffalo, the now eagle feather. Just felt like a great way to wrap up my third album.
I like it. I didn't even put that together. I know those albums, and I didn't even think
Yeah,
the Animal trilogy. So now you got to start all over. On
I
whenever
know.
album
Now
four comes out.
I'm gonna have to go with I mean, who knows, man? I might go with another animal and just be like, all right, now
We're on the second trilogy,
we'll
right?
cross that bridge when we get there. Yeah,
I was gonna say
we'll
we're
see.
still celebrating this album, so
Listen,
let's not
I
get
don't even
ahead of it.
want to think about my next album, even though I do every single day.
Well, and on this record, you wrote or co-wrote all but two songs, and those two songs are "Drink Around" and "Horses Not Hearts." Why
Yeah,
why is that kind of so important to you to kind of have your hand, really on the creative pulse when it comes to writing the songs?
man, that's just how I've always, like I told you, man. There's not a lot of people that know about that culture, and that being my biggest influence, or one of them. Uh, People, you know, there's a lot of, I don't know. I just feel like I'm the one that has to bring that flavor into the room, and man, it's just at the end of the day, it's my name that's on the album. It's my name that is on everything. The music should be coming from that person, in my opinion. And that's not always the case. And but I've just always kind of had the strong grasp of who I am, and I love to collaborate and make music with other people. And I feel like that this is a great place to do that. And yeah, and but also on the other half of that, I also think it's really important to to support other songwriters, because that's a hard
Mm-hmm.
line of work, music, financially, and they're the ones that are really creating the music, which is just nuts that the ones that are creating the product are the ones that don't get the reward of it, or they get a small piece of the reward. So every time I cut an album, man, I always like to ask my friends and say, like, hey man, if there's anything that you think that I would like, I want to hear it. But please just only play me one or two, because if you give me like 5 or 6, I'm gonna say, hey dude, I don't think you're thinking hard enough about this. And there's been plenty of those. There's been plenty of tunes that are, that they say the word, they try too hard to be me, and it's like, I don't need any help being me. I want to know what you think, and like your angle of that. So yeah, man, I think it's important to create your own music, but also to allow to make room for collaboration. And that's a fine line, and that's one that I always struggle with. But at the end of the day, I love to be on a team, and I love to make music with other people. So
Well, and I was gonna say, for like the songs "Drink Around" and "Horses Not Hearts," which are the two outside cuts on this one. What was it about those? Because
yeah,
that kind of spoke to you. In theory, you can kind of probably figure it out, but
yeah, totally, man. Horses Not Hearts. The first thing that drew me in was the um the motif, that's just like, damn, that feels like, before there's any words in there, that feels like a me song.
you're
And
out west. You're out
yeah,
west.
dude, yes, man, like it just takes you there. And then lyrically, I just love the idea, and I'm so mad that I didn't write the song. I'm so pissed that 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 I didn't write it, and that's why I had to cut it, because I was mad that I didn't write it. that just this cowboy breaks horses, not hearts. That is so money. That is so good, dude. Um, People think that, or country music has this bad rep of portraying the cowboy as a bad guy and like as an outlaw and as a heartbreaker runaway. That's not how real cowboys are. Real cowboys are the kind of people that stay with you through thick and thin. They're the kind of people that you call when you need help because you know that they're going to answer and their word is their bond. Those are real cowboys, and those are the cowboys that I grew up around in Wyoming. So I've always wanted to kind of squash that motif just because that's not a cowboy. That's another word that we don't have to say on here. But yeah, man, that just that idea lyrically with that musical concept that the writers had was just so good, man. So good. Had to make it mine.
Well, and on this record, some of my favorites are, I love Firewater, love Stampede,
Yeah, thank you.
because those are some real, you really get into some stories there. And what's it like
Yeah,
to kind of tell stories through your
yeah,
songwriting?
yeah, man. Always. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that's gonna record more than two or three s- s- songs that don't really have an underlying meaning and that don't have the meat there and it's just the potatoes and the icing. Now there's a few of those that you have to have because if you have too much steak, then you're going to want something else, right?
Hmm.
So so yeah, man. I think it's really important for me to let my audience walk away with a real takeaway, you know?
Well, and then you got real personal on one song in particular, Caroline, which is a
Oh
song
yeah.
about your wife.
Yeah.
What was it like writing that song, and what was her response when she finally got to hear
Yeah.
it?
Man, I had that idea. I was typing up an Instagram caption about my wife, and it was just like an appreciation post. But at the end of it, I said, God took his time on Caroline. And I'm like, dude, I, I need to write that. Like, it already rhymes. I need to write that. And then I took it to two of my favorite people to write with who are God fearing, God loving guys that are kind of older and that have a lot more experience in this world than I do, and they're just so brilliant. And man, we wrote it out on the tour bus, and I knew that the the first thing I told him was, this has to be really, really, really good, guys. Like, we cannot make this a B plus. This has to be an A plus.
Sure
Uh,
did.
because it's my wife's name on it, and she's gonna be pissed if it's not. And she's not going to allow me to release it if it's not an A plus. Uh, so yeah, man, I'm very proud of that one. I feel like every lyric just hits me, and man, every time I get to the end of it, and I always get the chills, which is always a good sign. So I love that song. Very proud of that one.
Well, and you had something else, or you're gonna have something else special happen here this summer, and you're gonna be headlining Cheyenne Frontier Days, which to
Oh
be a
yeah,
Wyoming kid to do that in Wyoming, how cool is that?
man, that's the best, dude. That's the pinnacle of my touring career right there, man. Being able to play the Daddy of them all, which is the biggest stage in Wyoming, the biggest event in Wyoming. Um, Man, it doesn't get any cooler than that, dude. That's if I never played another gig after that night, I'd probably be okay.
Well, I mean, you've gotten to do some pretty cool things. Like I said, Red Rocks. You've gotten to play all over the place. What's the best part for you to when you're up there on stage and getting to perform?
Man, I still never get over the fact, you know, 90% of the time we're playing away from kind of my home territory, um, Wyoming, Montana. Now the whole Rockies kind of feel like my home territory just because they're very loyal out there, like Utah and Idaho, and the Dakotas and Colorado. They'll all hop in there, and that's awesome. But 90% of the time we're playing away from that area, and it's still I'm still always blown away that people know my music and love my music in Florida. Like we'll go up there and there's 1,000, 2,000 people out there, or 20,000 if we're playing a big show, and it's like, man, I never thought that music would take me that far away from Wyoming. So I always try and just remind myself how cool that is, and how it yields a lot more gratitude that way too. So yeah, man, that's probably the coolest part.
I was gonna say, I mean, no matter where you're from, I think lyrics can speak to people,
Yeah,
and
totally.
you do an amazing job with the stories and making it relatable. And now I do have to ask this question because I was thinking back to our first time chatting, and you signed a
Yeah, how
corn
long
dog.
ago was that?
That was like 3 years ago, maybe. Like
Wow.
you signed a corn dog. I remember that. Like if you don't remember
Oh
that,
yeah, yeah. That was oh dude, that
like
was the Iowa State Fair in 2022. So that must have been, yeah, yeah, 3 years ago. That's
yeah,
crazy. Wow.
So
The
have you
corn
had
dog.
any crazy moments like that lately while you're out there?
Oh man, no, not the corn dog was pretty epic, dude. Probably the craziest fan experience I've had in the last few months was this lady that came to the meet and greet, and then she waited at the very end of the line, and she came up, and she had gotten a whole sleeve on her arm of my last album, and it was just like all of the tunes and all of the pictures from the songs on her arm. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Like, it's one thing to have, like, Long Live Cowgirls as a tattoo, and that's really cool too. But to have a whole sleeve of just my music on her arm, I was like, man, people out here are,
They're dedicated.
yeah, man, yeah. It's just really cool that my music can have that kind of impact, that they would want to have it on them, on their body for the world to see for the rest of their lives. That was pretty cool.
Now when your face is like real big on someone's back, then it'll that'll be even better, right?
That might get a little weird, but I'm sure there's people out there. Like, I'm sure that there's somebody that has a post or a Morgan Wallen head on their arm, or a Michael Jackson head on their arm. There's people
Wow.
out there for sure.
Now, at the beginning of these conversations, I always like to ask what you're drinking. You're working on that course, but as I get toward the end, I always like to ask this question because it's always fun to hear everyone's answers. Right now, what's one of your favorite songs to perform live?
Oh man,
No pressure, right?
yeah, man, I really like to play Horses Not Hearts is really fun to play live, man. That one just has an energy to it every time we play it. That's kind of the first time that we play it pretty early, and it's the first time that you can feel the horses in the show, and that's pretty cool. And then whenever people kind of hits them, they're like, oh, all right, now we're in it, like we're at a Munsick concert. So I like doing Horses Not Hearts.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. And that's a fantastic song. Like I said, Eagle Feather is a fantastic album from
Thank you,
top to
man. Thank you,
bottom.
John. Appreciate it.
One that I think you can just listen through so easily. And
Thank you.
you've put out the album. You've got plenty of tour dates. Shows coming up. What else can folks expect from you this year? And are you going to be able to check off any more bucket list items, or hoping to?
Man, as far as I'm concerned, playing Frontier Days in July and then having my daughter in October, dude, that is a stacked 2025 right there, just with those two things alone, man. So, those are probably the two things that I'm looking forward to the most, and just finally being able to just enjoy this album being out, just because I've been working on this thing for 2 years now, so for it to just be out and just me enjoy other people enjoying it is awesome. And then plenty of tour dates, like you said, man. Plenty of tour dates. We'll be everywhere this year, so it's gonna be awesome.
Say you got a lot to look forward to the rest of this year, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to see where it takes you. And Ian, thanks for sharing a drink with me and a few more stories, man.
Yeah, man. Of course. Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Thanks, Jonathan.